Om Tat Sat. My humble prostrations to the all pervading energy known as Brahman or God, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananji Maharaj, to all the sages and saints of this world, and to each of you, divine soul, watching today's satsang. So, today we will be studying Sutra number 39 from the Sadhana Pad of the Raja Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So, Sutra number 39 is Aparigraha Sthairye Janma Kathanta Sambodha. Again, Aparigraha Sthairye Janma Kathanta Sambodha. Aparigraha is non-covetousness. Sthairya being perfected. Janma Kathanta, the knowledge of past births. Sambodhana, he acquires. So the meaning is by attaining perfection in non-covetousness, non-hoarding, non-accumulation, one acquires the knowledge of past births. Yes, so there are many siddhis. These are the blessings from God that may either come or not come depending on the evolution and the stage of your sadhana. But even if they do come, these are considered as mere milestones towards the progress. You haven't reached the destination, so always do not give too much importance to these siddhis. They simply come. Buddha had it, for example. He could see all his previous births at the time while he was in the process of getting enlightened, and many other sages and saints of India and probably other places who are genuine saints, who are genuinely getting self-realized. They do experience these if we follow these processes in the right proper manner, and that comes from God's blessings and your own tapasya, your own penance. But parigraha means covetousness, the vice of hoarding wealth or possessions on the basis of greed. Like, it's never enough. I want so many houses, I want so many things, so many cars, and we keep running after it. It's like running after a mirage, or drinking salty water from the ocean. The more you drink, the more the salt makes you feel thirsty, and the more you drink again. So therefore it becomes a perpetual cycle of unsatisfaction and greed. So aparigraha means non-covetousness. It is a virtue that stops one from being blind chasing the material possessions. You make a decision that now the flow of your life needs to go in a different direction towards spirituality, and as long as you have enough to take care of your expenses, your home, and your basic needs, then the goal should shift towards the human purpose. See, we have been created to know our Creator. That's the real essence of us being human beings. We are more evolved than all these other 8.4 million species. We have the ability to connect to God. So therefore, instead of coming and just running after material things, purposelessly watching TV, gossiping, and just working and hours on hours trying to entertain ourselves in the materialistic world and still not finding peace, there are all kinds of problems we face: jealousy, anger, greed. So all these things, slowly when we start working on it, you will notice that your life becomes more peaceful, you radiate, you glow better, you have peace, and every dimension of your life starts to improve. But you are the focal point, you are the center to make that change. Only you can make it happen, nobody else. The scriptures have always been there for thousands of years. It depends on us how important these scriptures are to us and what are we willing to do to learn that. To learn or not to learn is entirely up to the individual. The guru can bless, can guide, can share mystical insights, but the journey has to be undertaken by the aspirant, the disciple. I hope that makes sense. So when we start learning this beautiful quality of aparigraha or non-hoarding, we perfect the practice and we become detached even from the body, mind and senses. We don't even hoard our own body, mind and senses. We look at these as instruments then, and we keep them very clean and we do very good with it, but we are not attached to it. So the mind then revels in the fact that the soul is never confined to the present embodiment alone. Why? Because when you're able to see your past births, and it's like a 3D movie of your life, right? So you're seeing what you were several births ago and so on, and in each of those births you had a father, a mother, a sister, a uncle, a aunt, and you were attached to all of them just like you are in this life. And then one fine day you just kicked the bucket and you took another birth and then another one, and in each one you had the same attachments. So now you start to develop dispassion to say, wait a minute, which one was real, which one was the one that I enjoyed the most. And then you will realize that all of these kind of become like dreams. They become like dreams, just like you dream every day in your, or whenever you dream in your present life. See, so when you wake up, you don't give any importance to that dream. You say, oh, it was just a dream, it's over, whether it was good or bad. So the same thing happens to your vision of the embodiments. They don't mean much, but what they do mean is they guide you to tell you that all this is an illusion, including your present embodiment, so you don't feel so attached to it, and therefore you become more and more glorified within your own self. You see the vast vistas, vast expansion of the universe, rather than getting stuck to your own individual self. So further, he comes to understand that when he brings about the cessation of all cravings and greed, his soul will attain moksha or liberation. He will not be born anymore. So that is the key essence of us having a trailer of our past births, to say, hey, this cycle will continue. It's like projections on a screen, one frame at a time, but when you make them all together, it feels like a movie, doesn't it? So, and yet we cry and we smile and all that. We know it's not real, and yet we get involved. And therefore, you have broken that cycle when the divine energy shows you what has been happening to your Atman. Your Atman is ever the same. It's always the same. But your body changes like bubbles, different bubbles at different times, different bodies. So sometimes a plant, sometimes an ant, sometimes an elephant, now a human being, now something else, and so on. So then you say, wait a minute, this is not going to happen anymore. I'm going to take charge of my destiny. So this kind of becomes like a validation point. It becomes a marker for you. So the following sutras then describe the powers. So we have now studied, these were powers of the yamas that we have completed through sutra number 39. And now from sutra number 40, we will get into the niyamas, what we should be doing. And we will cover that tomorrow. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Om Tat Sat.